I just decided to put in Botswana Insurance Holdings because its share price is one of the highest the local companies in terms of share value. So its share value is 17.50 currently. That's what it's selling at, 17.50. Then I looked at what type of, how much dividends did they declare. In June, they declared 2019, 44 tebe, December 59 tebe, 103 tebe for 2019, 127 tebe for 2020. So for me, I wanted to compare, how is this comparable to Letsero shares? So if I bought 20,000 Letsero shares, let's say I have 20,000 Pula, should I choose Letsero or should I choose Botswana Insurance Holdings? I was looking at that. 20,000 Letsero shares will give, from 20,000 Pula, I can only buy 1,100 shares for BIFM because that's 20,000 divided by 17.50. It's around 1,200 shares. So from those shares, then I looked at the dividends that were declared. How much profit am I making per year? So it was 5% for 2019 and 6% for 2020. So then looking at these numbers with a layman's, because I'm not a really I'm not a real expert in these things. Just with a layman's thinking, I said, but even though Letsero's share value is lower and BIFM is higher, the return on investment for the past 2 years for Letsero, it was still significantly higher than for Botswana Insurance Holdings. So if you want to diversify your portfolio, though, you can buy from both companies. The ones that have a very low share value and the ones that have very high share values. But the ones with high share values, they'll give you small amount of shares for the same amount of money you have. So 20,000 Pula will give me almost 20,000 Letsero shares, but will only give me 1.1 BIFM shares. So this is where you have to decide, looking at the share prices and how the company is performing. So in summary, the Botswana Stock Exchange is not as complicated to invest in as people think. Stock brokers, they do the work for you. There's slow movement of stock. It's like a savings bank. So but at higher interest. There's no adrenaline like other stock exchanges. So most people in Botswana, they buy and hold. So they just buy and wait for dividends. Sometimes it's difficult in disposing of stock if there's no willing buyer. So most people are buying and hold. So if you have an emergency, you want to dispose of your stock as soon as possible, you might not get any buyer at the time. So it took me several months to dispose of Bank ABC shares in 2020. In 2019, I think end of 2018, Bank ABC was doing its IPO. I decided to invest. The IPO was 2 Pula. So I bought 5,000 shares that was 10,000 Pula. But the stock movement was too slow for me and the dividends were too low. So I decided to sell them off. And that's the money that I used. The 10,000 Pula I got, I used to add it to my Letsero shares. So because I thought Letsero was for me way better than Bank ABC. So that is much about the Botswana Stock Exchange. I'll quickly go through bonds and the other stuff. Unless there are questions about the previous on the shares. Okay, I'll quickly go through bonds, then we can ask questions at the end. So other baskets that you can diversify your portfolio that are found on the Botswana Stock Exchange are bonds. So bonds is like the loans that are taken out by companies or the government from individuals. So if I go out and buy bonds, it's like, let's say government bond. It's like me giving the government a loan at a fixed percentage. So in Botswana Stock Exchange, there's corporate bonds, there's government bonds. Unlike shares though, with the bonds, you have to buy at a higher, you have to use lots of, like more than 10,000 Pula to loan out to the government or to the corporate world. So they need a high startup for you to start up on buying bonds. Remember BTC, you could buy 1,000 shares, but bonds is different. So if you are buying a bond, you are loaning the company money. In return, you earn annual interest until maturity date. Unlike shares, there's a maturity date for a bond. Let's say the government issues out a bond to say, I need this amount of money. I'll hold on to the money until for 5 years. So we are in 2021. You will get your money in 5 years, which is in 2026. So it's less volatile than shares because you earn a fixed annual interest. It's not like shares where tomorrow you can have 0 dividend, tomorrow 50% dividend. With bonds, you are guaranteed of your interest. So if they say, well, they're going to be giving you 5% per 6 months, you are going to get your 5% for 6 months. It doesn't change. So it's a savings account, like a savings account, but at a higher interest rate. Remember, Botswana savings account, they give you 2%, some of them even 1% per annum. So they're less volatile than shares. They secure on unsecured bonds. So with bonds, you can get the ones that, if I invest 10,000 pula, I loan the government 10,000 pula today. At the end of the 5 years, I'm guaranteed that I'll get the 10,000 pula. I'm also guaranteed that every 6 months, I'll get my 5% of my 10,000 pula. With unsecured bonds, you are not guaranteed that you, at the end of the 5 years, you can get your money. If the company or the government has been through recession and all, you can get less than the amount of money that you loaned out as that bond. So on that daily market report for the Botswana Stock Exchange, there is the bond section as well. Let's just look at example number 1 only. So the government of Botswana was issuing out bonds, BW0, the name of the bond was BW007. It needed that 3,394 million. So the maturity bond date for that bond is 2050. So if you give out that money if you loan out your 10,000 pula today for that bond, you are going to get it in 2050. I'll skip the coupon rate and the bid and offer because I don't really understand that much there, but let's look. I'm always interested at the yield. So the yield for that first bond is 4.6% per annum. So this is the amount of money that you are guaranteed that every year you'll get 4.6% of your investment. It's given out twice annually as well. So this is one, if you want to invest on bonds, then you can ask your stockbrokers so that they explain further for you when. Is it 4.6% every 6 months, or is it 2.3% every 6 months, or what? Because they issue them twice per year as well. I haven't invested in bonds, so I don't have experience. The day that I tried to invest in bonds, I thought there were too low yields for me compared to my shares. So I used the money to buy more shares than the bonds. But if you want a secure one, because they're more secure than shares, they don't lose value. Especially government bonds, they're secure bonds. You are guaranteed that you get your money at the end of the 5 years. If you have an emergency and you want your money back, I don't know if you get penalized some fees, but at the end of the day, there's a maturity date. You have to stick to the maturity date. If you say it's 20, you see the bond number 2, it matures in 2031. If you loan the government your money today, you get it back in 2031. So that's what it means. But it's 6.02% per year. You get that fixed amount, fixed rate. And then I'm about to finish. Exchange traded funds. This are a group of, the exchange traded funds. Let's try to remove that. So this is when you group shares. You group different type of shares and you trade them as one single security. Let's say in Botswana, you pick 5 companies, BTC, Letero, Choppies, and all that, and then you trade them as one security. So this is what it means by an exchange traded funds. In the Botswana Stock Exchange, some of the ETFs are new gold. If you look through the sheet, you'll find new gold. You'll find new funds. New funds is from South Africa. There was also Beta before. Beta was from South Africa. I think this is how it easily explains what an ETF is. So Beta Beta was tracking an index of 40 top companies listed on the Botswana Stock Exchange. So instead of going out and buying only from Chopes, you will be buying from a variety of companies by buying that one ETF. It will be containing maybe 40 companies on it, like this one for Beta Bet. But I looked through the Botswana Stock Exchange, Beta Beta is no longer there. But this one, New Funds, is there. But you can see with what a single share for that ETF costs. It costs way more than one share. So New Gold cost 171. One ETF of New Gold cost 179 pula, and then one ETF of New Funds costs 50 pula. So if you wanted to buy 10, 100, it's 5,000 pula. So ETFs are considered to be less risky than buying a single listed company due to the diversification and spread of investment. It also saves on brokerage fees of buying from several companies. So if you buy from an ETF, it means that when one company in that ETF makes a loss, the other one makes a profit. It offsets the loss that you could have incurred. So it's similar to a unit trust, but we'll look at the unit trust in more detail than here. So this is like buying from a group of shares, but as a single security or a single entity. And then with unit trust, this is where fund managers, they pull funds from different investors and invest in a variety of platforms. So if there's a fund manager like BIFM, they'll take funds from me, from Lebogang, from Wami, from all of us, the 6 of us here. Then they take those funds and instead of having 1,000 pula only, they'll have 1,000 pula times 6, which is 6,000. Then they go out and invest that money in any in stocks, in bonds, or any entity that is of investment. Then when that unit trust makes a profit, when the unit trust makes a profit, the profit, they come back and share the dividends among the 6 of us. So it's like crowdsourcing, but for shares. So the types of unit trusts that are out there that you can find in Botswana, there is the money market. Money market is like they invest in savings account. So it's very low risk, low profit. There's also equity unit trust. They invest in shares only. So it's high risk. So if they invest in shares only, it means there's that loss of capital value or loss of decrease in share price. You can make a loss from your equity. Then there is the prudential unit trust, which are a combination of bonds, shares, and savings. So your fund managers, they'll take the money and go invest in bonds and shares and savings, which means they've diversified their portfolio. So if shares are making a loss, then your bonds will have a steady income. So most people prefer to buy from the prudential because it's a medium risk. But if you are a high risk person, you can get the equity unit trust. Then some of the unit trusts can be global, which is from across the international investment, like Botswana Life and all that. They invest in global unit trusts. So some of the unit trusts in the Botswana Stock Exchange, in the daily report, you will find the unit trust values as well, and what are the yields that you are getting out of the unit trust. So in the company